Once upon a time, roughly 13.8 billion years ago, give or take a cosmic rounding error, there was nothing. Not the poetic, moody kind of nothing with the lonely black voids and dramatic silence. Not even like the sad, heavy-eyed, crawled out of bed to open up an empty fridge at 3:23 a.m. nothing. This was the kind of nothing that would make a vacuum cleaner file a formal complaint for underperformance. No space, no time, no before. Trying to ask what happened before the beginning is like asking what's north of the North Pole while standing on it and spinning in circles. Physics just shrugs and changes the subject. Then, in what can only be described as the most unhinged entrance in the history of existence, decided it was bored of non-existence. A region of reality so microscopic it would make a proton look like a luxury yacht suddenly developed the spatial ambitions of a caffeinated multi-billionaire real estate tycoon on 3 expressor shots and a dare. In a process called cosmic inflation, this tiny patch of space-time expanded so aggressively and so fast that exponential feels like a polite understatement whispered by someone who is trying not to scare the children. We're talking a window of roughly 10 to the negative 36 to 10 to the negative 32nd seconds. That's even less time than it takes a photon across an atomic nucleus, while simultaneously inventing the concept of regret. In that absurdly brief interval, the universe ballooned by a factor of at least 10 to the 26th power. Imagine taking a single grain of sand, yelling, "More room!" and watching it inflate into the beach the size of the observable cosmos, while the beach is still mid-growth and somehow already complaining about property taxes. Space itself was the thing having the growth spurt. The universe wasn't exploding into a pre-existing room, it was inventing the room. The furniture, the concept of furniture, and the accidental crisis that comes with owning too much square footage, all at once. When inflation finally stopped, we still don't know why the universe suddenly decided, okay, the drama has peaked, let's dial it back. All that stretched out energy dumped itself into the hottest, densest particle soup imaginable. Welcome to the hot Big Bang. A quark-gluon plasma so extreme that quarks and gluons are swimming around completely naked like they were at a physics rave where the only dress code was nothing. The temperature was so high that if you tried to measure it with a normal thermometer, the thermometer would attempt to melt but just poof, vaporize, then file a strongly worded letter to the laws of thermodynamics. As the universe expanded and cooled, it is still expanding, by the way, currently doing so with the casual confidence of someone who knows dark energy is covering the bill and tip. The strong force finally rounded up those 3-range quarks and stuffed them into protons and neutrons like a cosmic bouncer enforcing a dress code. A few minutes later, literally, the first few minutes of everything Big Bang, nucleosynthesis through the most efficient, chaotic dinner party in history. In that tiny window, the universe produced essentially all the hydrogen and helium that still dominates the cosmos, plus a polite sprinkle of lithium for favor. Roughly 75% hydrogen, 25% helium by mass, no oven, no receipt card, just pure nuclear chaos operating under conditions so extreme that overcooked isn't even a coherent concept. The universe basically made its entire primordial cake mix in less time it takes a modern human to decide whether the leftovers in the fridge are still safe. For the next 380,000 years, the cosmos remained a foggy, opaque mess. Photons tried to travel and got slapped around by free electrons like they were stuck in the world's worst mosh pit with no exit signs. Then, a recombination. Electrons finally settled down, joined nuclei, and formed neutral atoms. The fog lifted, and light could stream freely for the first time. That ancient light is still raining down on us today as cosmic microwave background, the universe's baby photo, stretched by expansion into microwaves and mapped into ridiculous detail by satellites. It is the oldest existing photograph of anything, ever. A slightly blotchy portrait of a 380,000-year-old universe, already showing the tiny temperature freckles that would one day become galaxies, clusters, and the entire cosmic web. Those freckles started as quantum fluctuations smaller than atoms. Inflation stretched them like cosmic taffy until they became the gravitational seeds of everything. Dark matter Still, the universe's most successful mystery guest, the one who shows up early, rearranges the furniture, and never explains itself, did the heavy lifting and built the scaffolding, while ordinary matter arrived fashionably late and pretended it had been there the whole time. A few 100 million years later, the first stars ignited, ending the Dark Ages with the cosmic equivalent of someone finally finding the light switch after stumbling around in the dark for an uncomfortably long time. Modern data keeps polishing the story without rewriting the plot. The age remains at about 13.8 billion years, according to the cosmic microwave background under the standard model. The oldest stars we can carefully age date land in the same neighborhood. The light element abundances still match those frantic first few minutes. Even the ghostly cosmic neutrino background has been statistically concerned, closing another major prediction. There are still arguments. Early galaxies that look suspiciously mature for their age, a stubborn tension in the expansion rate measured locally versus early on, but the core narrative stands a hot, dense beginning, a brief period of absolute geometric insanity, a cooling plasma that forged the lightest elements, and a clear afterglow still glowing across the sky. So, the universe began not with a plague cough, but with the most dramatically overcommitted makeover imaginable. From so small it barely qualifies as a concept to everything that would ever exist, accomplished in less time it takes to say, wait, what just happened? It spent its opening minutes cooking hydrogen and helium like a short order cook on a deadline from hell, waited hundreds of thousands of years for the fog to clear so it can take a proper selfie, and then slowly, over billions of years, turn quantum jitters into galaxies, stars, planets, and eventually creatures capable of sitting around making increasingly absurd jokes about how ridiculously over the top the whole origin story really was. And here we are, 13.8 billion years later, still reading the fine print on the cosmic birth certificate and laughing because the fine print is somehow even weirder than the headline, and the headline was already completely unhinged.